Good morning, guys. Today I actually want to display a little package that I created on NPM. If we're going to have a look at it, it's called Firemaker, and what it does, it takes Google Firebase's web password authentication and email link authentication and makes it a little bit shorter and simpler to use. So the way I'm going to display this is by creating a Vue.js app, and in that app I'm going to protect a specific page, and we're going to have to sign up and log in to use that page, and we're going to do that by using these helper functions that I've written in this package. It's not a very big package, and anybody is welcome to go to the GitHub repository. It's open, so you can go and create issues, you can submit pull requests. I'll have a look at them and we can maybe grow this little package. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to move into my folder where I usually create all my projects, and in here I'm going to make a directory called Vue Firemaker auth, and I'll cd into that. So right here I'm going to use the Vue CLI. If you don't have the Vue CLI installed, I have version 2.9.3. If you don't have the Vue CLI installed, you can just do a npm -g, I think, of the Vue CLI, and I think you do add vue/CLI, and this will install the CLI on your machine. So to use the Vue CLI, I'm just going to say vue init, and I'm going to use the webpack simple template. If you haven't created the folder that you init the project in, you have to do a space and create the name of your project, but I'll just simply initialize the empty project. So this is going to download the template, and as you can see I'm a little bit outdated. That's fine. A description, a Firemaker/Vue auth. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, we'll use Sass. So after that's been generated, you have to run an npm install. And while that runs, I'll just quickly forward this up. So after that has installed, you'll see it's created a bunch of packages. What I'm going to install now is the vue-router, because that does not come along with the webpack simple template, and I need the vue-router because I want to specifically protect a certain route, and the vue-router is a front-end routing system that allows you to do that by creating methods on the route, or kind of middleware on the route on the front end, which checks for certain things, and if that's true or false, it allows the user to enter or not. So what we'll do is we'll create the user, and if the user exists and it matches, we'll allow him in, and if it doesn't, we won't allow them in. So now that that's been generated, let's go have a look at what it looks like. To run a development server, you need to run npm run dev, and to actually build your files for deployment, you can do npm run build. And this is what it generates: a nice looking little Vue app with a logo and some stuff. So let's get started in the code. I'll open this with my favorite text editor, Microsoft Visual Studio Code, and in here there's a few things we want to do. So we have installed the vue-router, but it's not included yet. So what I'll do is I'll create a folder, and in this folder I'll create a new file called index.js, and inside index.js we have to import Vue from Vue, and we have to import the vue-router from vue-router. And the way you use these types of plugins, you have to say vue.use vue-router, and this sort of instantiates the router on the Vue instance, and what we need to do now is define our route. So we'll create a constant called router, and we'll set that equals to a new vue-router. So as you can see, the vue-router is a constructor function probably in the backend, or under the hood, and now we're creating a new router object from that constructor, and we can pass it some options, and these options, there's quite a few. You can go look at the docs, but all that I'm going to need at the moment is an array of routes, and each route is an object with a property called path, and that's the home path, and each takes a component, and we'll define the home path as the login component. Whoa. And save that. At the moment this won't work. If we go look at the page, if we refresh, it's breaking. So what we need to do is import, actually let's first create the login component, and for that I'll do a folder called components, and inside the components folder we'll create a new file called login.vue. Sorry guys, I got a little bit interrupted, but I think we just created the login.vue file, and this is the name that you'll be importing to the router. In here I'm just gonna do the Vue syntax, which takes a template, a script tag with an export default, and a style tag. And since we've installed Sass, just to be fun, we'll create the lang as Sass. And for now, let's just make this an h1. And to be able to use our router, just because we've declared the home router's login doesn't mean it's automatically going to do that. What we need to do is in our app.vue, I'm actually going to delete all of these because this is the element in which our entire Vue app is going to be rendered. And to be able to use our router, we need to create a custom element called router view. I'll just do it like that. And what this does is every single route we visit will be rendered inside of this app.vue. So what you can do is maybe create the layout on this app.vue, like your nav bar over there and your footer over there, because that will probably be rendered on all your components. But the other things that are specific to components, you can just render inside of your component itself. I'm actually going to remove these styles and just make this Sass, and this should give us the login. So let's have a look. Let's refresh. So the site cannot be reached, probably because we haven't run our server again. So what we need to do here is run our dev server, and we should see our login route on home. If we don't, we can inspect that and we'll see unknown custom element router view digiregister, and that is happening because our router is created and we're creating the router view, but in order to use the router, it is being added to the Vue instance, but we need to go into our main.js and import the router from here. And we have to import it from the folder in which we created it. We can just add the folder because it's called index.js, so it'll automatically take index.js. And on here we have to say router. And with the new ES6 syntax, we don't need to say router. We can simply just do that. And now this should hopefully give us the login is not defined. This is great. We're doing great. Let's go back to the router login. We've never imported the component, so we have to say import login from the components. And if you use the webpack setting, you don't have to do // you can do @ / because that's like sort of compiled for you, but it hasn't been working in the webpack simple, so I'm just gonna stick to this, and then we can just do login without the view because it automatically adds that. And I'm just gonna put a space here. Let's save and see what's going on. Another one, cannot read property matched, cannot read my blah, blah, blah. What's going on? View match, router view. Damn, I'm messing this up, but okay, whatever. I'm not going to restart this entire video. I guess we're just debugging stuff now. So in this file, I forgot to, I'm importing the router from router, but it's not automatically getting exported from there. I have to say export default router, and this hopefully, oh, finally we got hello from login. So I don't like this font, and I'm not going to install a CSS framework. I'm actually just going to write my own styles, and it won't be pretty at all because I don't really care about styles in this video. I'm just doing the auth. So I'm just going to get this Roboto font, and I'll import this right into the main parent component app.vue. But in order to use it, I'll have to do body, and I think, yeah, Sass works. You don't need to create your curly braces, and it works with indentation. So your indentation has to be correct for Sass to work. And what I'm going to say is font family, Roboto, and fallback will be sans serif. I don't think we need the semicolon either. So let's have a look. Let's see if that worked. Yes, we see a nice looking font over there. So next up, I think we'll create the login form in the login route. To get started with the login page, and actually this won't just be a login page, this will be a login and sign up page, but I just called it login, and the way we're going to do that is using Vue's reactive rendering stuff, and that'll be cool to experiment with as well. So let's create a form. We don't need an action, and in the form I want to create a few. I want to have a title, and I'll call this login for now, and then I want an input. Type text is, no, let's do it type email, and then we'll do an input type password as well. We don't really need names and IDs for now. If you're doing like server-side stuff, you'll need names and actions and submits and stuff. I'll just add a break here because it's going to put it right next to each other. And below that, I'll put an input with a type submit, and it doesn't need a value. And I'll do a break here as well. And let's see what that looks like. Nice little form shoved up to the side. I will add a little bit of styling, as that looks too bad. I can't leave it like that. So what we'll do is we'll give the form a width of, not equals, a width of 75%, and we'll give it a margin of 0 and auto, and we'll align the text to the center, not centere, and then next up we'll do the inputs. I want to add some margin to them. I'll add, let's say, 10 pixels. I need that. Let's look at it. Okay, nice and centered. It's a little bit small, so let's add width to this as well. We'll do 50%. See what that looks like. It's a little bit too much, I'd say. Let's So let's do a third. Yeah, that's fine, I guess. It's really ugly, no CSS, I mean no framework, bootstrap type stuff, so let's just leave it like this for now. So what we want to do next is to dynamically render this as either a login or a sign up form, and probably add a little a tag here to change whether it's login or sign up. And the way we'll do that is we'll add a data property to our export here. And in this data property, we want to set something called isSignup. And for this, we don't need a isLogin, because if it's isSignup, it probably is not isLogin. So let's keep that as that, and we'll initialize it as false. So initially, we will land on the login page. And at the moment, this won't do anything, but we can do this. We'll add a sign up, and at the moment this will be login and sign up, but in order to have it dynamically render, we'll add something called a vif on these, and let's just do is sign up. So what this is doing is, if this is sign up, if that's equals to true, then show that. So if is sign up is true, we actually want to show this one, so that's fine, but we don't want to show that one. So there, it's just login, because we have, if we set this to true, it will show sign up. And now we need something to dynamically set this data property, and I'm going to do that right here in the form. So I'll just create an a tag, and this a tag won't have an href. It will say do not have an account, sign up. And the next one, I guess we can copy and paste that. We'll say have an account, log in. And we'll do the exact same thing as up here, and I'll actually just space these out so that we can see where the different sections are. And we'll do a vif on this as well. And we'll say the same thing, is sign up. And we want to say that on sign up, but we don't want to say that on login. So not is sign up and is sign up. And if we have a look at that, that's ugly, because we need to add a break here as well. Alright, so if we click on that, I want that to be a cursor as well, just for it to make sense. Cursor. So I want that to be a pointer, and for hover now, yeah, that looks better. So this isn't right. Login. We switched it up. We have to say this is not is. Sign up, yeah. Alright, don't have an account, sign up. So when we click this, we want that value to change so that all the other stuff changes. And technically we need to add another button as well, because they have two methods, or we can do the check inside the method, whichever way you prefer doing it. I think I'll add another button and do it the same way as these to dynamically render them. Then also what we want to have is a method for changing the isSignup value when clicking on these. So let's get to that. We'll add another submit, and we'll have to do the same logic on here. And when it is, I guess it doesn't matter, we can just do that. And we also want these buttons to change the value of isSignup. So there's another nice Vue property called @click, and what we want to do is, if it is sign up, we want it to be not is sign up. So all we have to do is say that is equal to not that, and now that should dynamically change the values on the page. So we're on login, but we don't have an account. We want to sign up. So now we're on sign up. Do we have an account? We can actually log in. So that's cool. And we don't really need to change these values, but we do need to add data properties on them, because we're going to need those data properties when signing up. So we'll create a property called email, and we'll initialize it to empty, and then one called password, and initialize that to empty as well. And on these inputs, we want to add an attribute called vModel, and this one has to vModel email, and this one has to vModel password. And what this does is it dynamically, whatever value is in these inputs need to go, or actually models these data properties, and this makes dynamic rendering and using these properties a bit easier than writing JavaScript to go get the value and update the value. So this one has to vModel password. So now that we're vModeling email and password and setting these data properties, we can actually go create the page that we want to protect. And I'll just create that inside the components page, and I'll call it home.view. And for now, let's just do a basic template, and we'll add an h1 and say protected. So to be able to use this as a route, we have to go to our routes and add it. Each route is an object that has a path, and I want to call this one home, and the component is going to be home. So let's not make the same mistake. Let's actually import the home component from components/home. And if we go to our page now and we go to /home, we hit our protected route. At the moment it's not protected because we just entered it in the URL bar and we actually got to it. So first of all, what we want to do is we want to be able to protect this route. So to be able to do that, let's go into our vue-router. And sometimes you'd want to create a new middleware folder, but because we're only creating one function, I guess that's fine. I'll create a constant called middleware, and I'll set that equal to a function. And inside this function, we need a few things called, we need to have a few parameters to this function called to, from, and next. And the way this works is we can do a lot of logic in here, and we have the to route, so where are we going, we have the from route, where did we come from, and next just goes to the route. So what we want to do here is just to test it, let's say to back to home. Doesn't matter where you're coming from, you're going back home. So the way we use it on a route is not home, the base route. So the way we use this is we have to say before enter, and we can just set that as middleware. So now if we try to go to home, it's just immediately going to send us to the base of the site. So let's reload this and go to home and see what happens. See, nothing changes here. It still leaves the home in the URL bar, but it does not go there. So if that means our middleware is successful, what we can do is instead we can say next. Maybe that'll change the route value because it actually goes to that route. So let's try and type home up here, and it doesn't allow us. It just completely redirects us back to the login page. So this is the part where we finally start to implement our authentication. So what we need to do is to use, oh, these are previous errors, but to use the authentication, we need to install a package called Firemaker. And Firemaker is a package that I created myself. It just uses the email and password and email link authentication methods from Firebase, but it just provides a few methods that are easier to read and write. So I'll just install that. Note that you don't have to install Firebase. It automatically installs Firebase because it's a dependency of Firemaker. So now that we have that installed, there's a few things we need to do. Firstly, we need to go to the Firebase console, and you can log into console.firebase.com. Then we want to add a project, and I'm going to call this Vue Firemaker auth, and then accept and create project. And we'll wait for this to finish loading. Now that your project is ready, you can continue and go into the Firebase console. The only place we need really to use is the authentication. And before we set up any authentication, let's use the web setup and just copy this code and go back to our project. And in our source folder, I'm going to create a new folder called services. And inside the services folder, I'm going to create a file called firebase.js. And this is just for the setup of Firebase. And I'm going to delete the project after this, so these won't be valid anymore. But now that we have our config, we don't really have Firebase yet. So we need to import Firebase, and we can do this because it installed along with Firemaker. And also, if we want to use it in our app, we're going to have to export it from this file. And we need to import it from here and not into the main.js file, but we shouldn't import it straight from the node module because this is adding some configuration to the Firebase object, so it's initializing our app. So in here we can just say import, and we don't need to name it, we'll just import it, and we'll go to /services and then Firebase. So that's importing Firebase to our project, and I believe this should show up in our console because Firebase gives a console warning. So there's nothing showing, so there must be an error. So I found the error. It's a simple error actually. I tried to import Firebase from my Firemaker module, so that won't work. But if we refresh this now, the page should be working and Firebase is being imported because it's giving us this console warning. So now we'll be able to use our neat little Firemaker module, and to use that we have to import it to our file, and that will enable us to use the methods. And what we want to do is we want to create methods on these submit buttons. So I'm going to add an @click, and I'll say I think sign up for this one. I think this, if it's not sign up, then we're showing login, so this should be a login method. And if it's sign up, it should be a sign up. And we're going to use the local strategy today. So now we can use the sign up and login methods, and the way we do that is on our Vue instance we have a property called methods, and we can create sign up, and we can create login as well. So for sign up, what we want to do is we want to take the Firemaker and give it the local strategy, and local is just the email and password. Then we want to say sign in. That is the method that comes along with Firemaker. And to be able to sign in, we need to give it an email, and I can say this.email, which is a Vue thing, saying this.email is taking the data property and putting it there, but you can statically type your email in there, but I wouldn't suggest that. And then this.password for the password. And this should already work, but Firemaker is promise based, so it returns a .then. I mean, it returns a promise, and we can do a .then. And let's just console.log success. And if there's an error, we should catch that error. And most of the errors returned are the exact errors from Firebase, so we can just console.log that error. And let's see what this gives us. So we need to be on the sign up page. Let's open up our browser. We need to sign up. Let's add a email address. And let's add a password. I'll just write password. Submit. So that's a problem. We shouldn't actually submit the form. But if we inspect, yeah, we should, before we actually do that, we need to go onto this form because it's still submitting, and we'll have to say add submit.prevent, just so that it does not actually post the form or anything like that. So let's try again. Let's refresh. Let's refresh on the home page and go to sign up, and then try again. Password is password, and I'll submit that so it doesn't redirect anywhere. And if we inspect, the given sign-in provider is disabled for this Fire project. That is exactly what I thought I would do. So I would have to go into the Firebase console, this one, and we have to go into sign-in method and edit this and enable. I won't be doing the email link password today, but that is also available via Firemaker on Npm. But let's save that. So let's go back to the project. Let's go to the browser, and then refresh. We can do and we can say password. Let's submit, and we have there's no user record. Oh, that is because we're trying to sign in with an account that doesn't exist yet, because I called the sign in method on the sign up, which just shows you guys that it's early in the morning and I have not had my coffee yet. But that means that it's working, because we're getting an undefined object back, and it's actually talking to Firebase. So let's change this to sign up. Save that, and let's try one more time. Let's sign up. Password, submit, and we get a success. This error is just the fab icon. That's fine, we don't have to save that. Success, success. So when you sign up, it actually first signs you up, gives us a success, and then signs you in, gives you a success again. Or no, I'm actually sending success from the module, so I should probably go comment out that console.log. It doesn't really matter, but so now we have signed up. What we really want to do is clear this form as well after signing up. So after calling this method, we can say this.email equals that. Actually, what we want to do is we want to redirect to the page that is protected. So to do that, we have to say this dot $router, and this comes along with the router that we installed. You can say $router dot push, and we want to go to home. And this won't work because we're protecting home at the moment, but let's just go to our router and comment out the middleware logic and remove this here, and let's go see what happens. So we have signed up, and now we can't sign up again, but if we try, what will happen is it should give us an error because we've already created that account and we shouldn't be able to use the same email again. So let's see what happens. Auth email already in use, the email address is already in use by another account. So that didn't work, but it did send us to the page because we're doing no checks to whether, actually what we should have done is just add this to the .then. So we'll have to do that. So only if it was successful we should reroute, otherwise we should catch the error. So let's try again. And see what happens. It does not redirect us because it oh, that was the login page anyway, so sorry for that. Let's sign up. Let's try again. Doesn't work, and it didn't redirect us because we already are using this email address. And what we can do is we can check for these error responses and display like a UI element that shows us, oh, this is not available or whatever. But I'm not going to do that today. That's for you guys to play with. But what I do want to do is in login, I want to add the sign in method. So what we do here is we define our local strategy. This time I can use sign in, and this takes the same parameters and it also promise based, so we can do it .then, and truly what we want to do is just the same logic. And we want to catch the error if there is one. Oh no. Alright, so this should also do the same thing, but we shouldn't be able to sign up twice, so it should give us a sign in method as well. But now what we want to do is, if we sign in, this account does exist, so the sign in method should work. Let's see what happens. It redirects us. Cool, so that did work. Technically that means that if we enter anything that doesn't exist, let's see what happens if we enter the wrong password, because that should be an unsuccessful sign up. Let's type some gibberish. It doesn't redirect us because we haven't entered the right details. The password is invalid for the user does not have a password. So technically our route is protected via the login methods, but anybody can still come and just type home and go there if they're worth their salt. But so let's go protect our route. So right now I'm back in the router, and what I want to do here is add my middleware function back, but this time I don't want to just send it back to login. I actually want to use some type of logic to check that there is a user and this is the correct user. So what I want to do is import Firemaker from Firemaker, And in this logic, I want to do Firemaker. This is another neat method that gets provided by Firemaker. Get user, and this get user gives us the ability to see if there is a user actually logged in. For now, it won't matter which user is logged in, as long as somebody is logged in, they can enter the route. But if you want to go deeper with the logic, maybe I'll create another video where we bring in the Vuex store, and from this login page we dispatch a email address or a hash value of both email and password, and we store it in local storage or the store or something like that. Then after storing it in local storage, we can go in the router and check whether the user that we're checking here is the same user in local storage or whatever. But for now, I won't do that. I'll just check that there is an actual user. So what we want to do is create a callback and say user. And this is where the logic will happen. So if there is a user, we want to say next. And if there isn't a user, we just want to send them back because they're not authorized. They don't belong there. They should go back and create an account or log in or whatever. And technically, that should give us the ability to go to the route. So the way we can test this is go back here and log in with the, so we have that middleware on there now, so that should be checking, and we have to enter the correct password, submit, and there is a user, so we can enter. That is great. No errors and everything is working correctly. The way we can further test this is, so I've just refreshed my browser, and I could have used the sign out method or something, but just to test this, I'm going to go to /home, and nothing is happening because we aren't, if we inspect this, no user found. So that's great. We don't have a user, so that means we can't go to home. What we can do here is to make it a bit more obvious. We can, if there is a user, we'll just console.log user exists, and if there's no user, we have to say user doesn't exist. So just so that we can be sure that this logic is coming from the actual middleware and not some other place. Let's save that and see what happens. Let's go back. Let's do home. Doesn't go there. That's successful. Console.log. No user found. I'm guessing this is happening because the error is coming from, let's see, so let's do a dot catch just to see if there is an error, and we'll console.log the error, and well, let's do can't log in and the error. Let's see what happens. There we go. So it's giving us, if we go back to home, it's giving us that console.log. So we should have really done the, well, I guess we can do it in both. So we can set the next here as well, because this error is coming from Firebase, and we're sort of double checking now. If the user is returned, then we can go next. If it's not returned, then don't go next. But if the user doesn't even exist at all, then don't. So that's like extra security. But now if we look at the console.log, it's giving us a error, cannot log in, no user found. So let's try logging in. The user should still be in our Firebase, so I can just use the user I created with password and submit, and this should take us to the protected route. And even now, when we go back to login and we type home, it should take us there because the user exists. There's the console.log from the middleware. So the user will physically have to sign out using a sign out method and clicking a button before they are again, until the route is again protected from them entering. Thanks guys for watching this video. I really hope you find it useful. Maybe you can start implementing auth this way in your applications if you're a front-end developer. To be able to use Firebase authentication in the back end on Express, I'm pretty sure you'll need stuff like cloud functions and Node.js, I think no later than 6. But yeah, this is a neat little way of protecting your front-end application, and I just wanted to display this package that I created, and it's by no means like the best package out there. I just thought it would be fun to show off something that I've made, and there will be more options and methods included over time. So yeah, I've gotten a spike here of 88 downloads. I don't know where that came from, but yeah, if you are someone who downloaded, thanks. I doubt it, but yeah, I hope you guys found this useful, and maybe see you in the next video. Cheers.